mind when when we're trying to file an H1B cap case, and in case it gets picked in the lottery? So what are the things to keep in mind when it actually gets picked?
So first, we have to determine if that foreign national or that employee that you want to file for qualifies for the H1 or not. So to do that, we have to show whether the job, first of all, qualifies for a H1. That is the job a specialty occupation? Meaning, does the job require a bachelor's in a specific area to be able to perform the job? And second, does the wage rate, you have to find out what is the wage rate for the job. You cannot put a wage that is below the prevailing wage. So there are many ways of finding out what the industry wage is. One of them is from the Department of Labor website, and that's the most commonly used wage rate. So it's important to find out for your job, once you determine what your job title is, to figure out then where the work location is, and then based on the work location, figure out what is the prevailing wage for your job in your particular county. And when you're determining the job, I would suggest that you use, there are 4 levels. So I suggest not to use level 1 if it can be avoided. And we can talk further about that as to why not to use it. But usually, on an average, we use level 2 a lot. And for more advanced positions, level 3 and level 4. So once the wage rate, you figure out what is the wage for your job, then you file something called a labor condition application with that wage. And you promise to pay that wage in the labor condition application. And the labor condition application is filed with the Labor Department, not with the USCIS. And once you get an approval from them, then it takes about 5 to 7 business days to get an approval from the Labor Department. So this, if you're planning to file your H1 on April 1st, you'll have to get the LCA done before that. Or if you start on April 1st, then most probably you'll be able to file on 7th or 8th. So it's important to know that there is a 7-day waiting period for the LCA. And the LCA can get denied, so it's important to file it properly without making any clerical errors and ticking all the right columns. So once your LCA gets approved, there's a lot of useful information on the LCA, such as the end client name, if there is an end client, their address, the prevailing wage, as I said, the wage that you're offering, which has to be higher than the prevailing wage, and of course the address and name of the company, contact information of the company. So there is a lot of useful information there, and that's important. LCA is important because there are a lot of regulations behind that LCA. They want to make sure you're paying the prevailing wage and you're not underpaying your employees, and therefore they require you to post your LCA in your office space so that your other employees can see as well, so that you inform them as to what is the wage that you're paying. So if anyone has any complaints, then they will reach out to the Labor Department. So LCA is pretty significant. Once the LCA is approved, you will file your H1-B cap petition. In order to file this, you will of course first would have received an approval from your registration. So your H1-B cap petition would have been picked in the lottery, and you'll get a notice. And that notice will give you information as to where you should file your petition. And you have to, under all circumstances, send your H1-B petition only to that address, and not to any of the other addresses that you send extensions to, transfers to, amendments to, etc. Follow the address. So if you don't, then the petition will come back. And there's no saying when it will come back, so you might lose your opportunity, right? So important to follow that. Now, once you file your H1-B petition, the way to file it is that you have to prepare something called, you have to fill out something called an I-129 form. That form is rather lengthy, has several pages. There's an I-129 petition, I-129H petition, and an I-129DC petition. 3 sets of petitions that have to be prepared, which has all kinds of information, including information about your company, information about the job, the salary you're paying, the duties, the beneficiaries information, what is their status, if they're in the US right now, their date of birth, their personal particulars, etc. So again, remember to fill out this H1-B petition or I-129 petition correctly. In addition to that, you have to include the LCA approval that you got. You have to include your registration notice that you got that you were picked in the lottery. And you also have to submit supporting documents such as information about the company, proof that your company actually has a job for you, because your employment cannot be speculative. The employment has to be a real job, and not something where they say, oh, we don't have a job right now, but once our H1 gets approved, then we'll look for a job. You can't say that. So also documentation related to the beneficiary, that is the employee, that is the documentation to show that the employee is in status, such as his proof of status like an I-94, his passport, etc. So these are all the supporting documents. So once you file this, if you file it in premium processing, if that is available for cap cases this year, then you will get the response in 30 days. You have to pay $2,500. That's the fee for cap cases. Once you get the response, if that response could either be an approval or it could be a request for further evidence. If it's an approval, great, depending on where, if your employee is in the US, then they just, start working as of October 1st. Remember, because we are filing the petition with the start date of October 1st. We cannot file the petition with an immediate start date because the fiscal year starts on October 1st. And if you try to file it earlier, your H1B will get denied and everything will go waste. And again, you might lose your opportunity, that window of opportunity. So remember to put the, start date as October 1st. So you will be able to start on October 1st or whenever your H1 gets approved, the later date, whichever is that date. So not before October 1st. So and you're given 30 days to start, because sometimes people need to get social security numbers and stuff like that, and employers cannot put their employees on the payroll without a social security number. So you can immediately start once that date becomes current, once it's October 1st. But if the person is in India, if an employee is in India, then there's another step that he has to go to. He or she has to take the H1B approval and has to get an appointment with the consulate, US consulate in India. Then if the consulate they'll review the documentation, they look at the end client information, employee information, you have to the original H1B approval, etc. And they will either approve the visa or they'll deny it. If they deny it, not much can be done. Unfortunately, there's no appeal process. But if they do approve it, then again, you'll be able to enter the US. You have to carry your original, of course, your passport with the visa stamped on it and your original H1B approval, and an employment letter from your employer saying that you still have a job. They still have a job for you. So that's, then you come in and then get on your payroll and, life goes on. So that's the process in a nutshell.